It would be easy to start this sidebar with a rant about how Disney caved to the neck-bearded dude bros who didn't like the Acolyte because the majority of the characters weren't a straight white male, with 2 of the 3 mains being Asian men and the title character was a black female. We could counter the arguments of how it was poorly written, with how the complaints lobbied against the show were mostly regurgitated complaints read on the internet, and when pressed, most could not back their claims with any substance because they hadn't personally watched the show. We could spend time countering the arguments of low viewership and poor critical reviews on Rotten Tomatoes by explaining that the show was review bombed before the show even aired. In fact, a movie called The Acolytes that was released in the late 1990s was also bombed by these fans. Just in case, that had anything to do with the current Disney era release. We could do all those things, but it wouldn't matter. Those who subscribe to those views are already gloating over the cancellation of The Acolyte, calling it a win for the anti-woke community. Instead, the point of this video is to highlight the reasons why a second season of The Acolyte is needed and why it should happen. If you're not a fan of the show, we get it. When we say that Star Wars is for everyone, it doesn't mean that everything made has to appeal to everyone. You have every right to dislike this show or anything else made in your favorite fandoms. We respect that. But let's discuss, and I do mean respectfully discuss, reasons for The Acolyte to continue. Because in the words of Rose Tico in the movie The Last Jedi, that's how we're gonna win, not by fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. Darth Plagueis. Ever since The Revenge of the Sith, we have been teased with the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. We have begun to learn how his search into the use of Force powers to control and create life resulted in the Force creating Anakin Skywalker to bring balance to the Force as the Chosen One. A Star Wars Messiah, if you will. We have never had a Darth Plagueis sighting on any screen in any Star Wars movie or TV show until The Acolyte, so having him appear, even for a quick moment, is a big deal. Not following up with a Season 2 would remove the opportunity to see Plagueis pursue the storyline we have come to know him for. Watching him perfect what the Coven of Brendock attempted to do with the twins May and Osha would be wonderful and fill in some holes in the Star Wars story. Did he copy their work exactly? Or were there holes in their research and he filled in what they had lacked to the point where the Force had to respond? We need more of the Darth Plagueis story, and I think Season 2 of The Acolyte would have delivered or would at least have begun to explain that story. Vernestra Rwoh. Although she seems almost inconsequential at the beginning of the series, we begin to see and understand that Vernestra Rwoh is central to the storyline of the creation of the Stranger, being his former master, and she is central to the cover-up of what happened on Brendock and the story of Master Soul. We watch her cover up the story with the Senate as she places the blame squarely on the shoulders of Master Soul, blaming him for the incident 16 years ago and for what recently happened on Brendock. She blames him for the death of all Jedis, hiding the existence of a Sith, and keeping both the Senate and the Jedi Council itself in the dark. What was the reason for her cover-up? What benefit does she gain for herself or the Jedi for keeping this quiet? And what did she say to Master Yoda in the closing seconds of the season finale? Now, for those of you who are going to object, saying that Yoda would never be involved in a cover-up, please revisit the Clone Wars era, where Yoda openly suggests covering up the existence of a Sith Lord and the inability to sense the dark side of the Force, and keeping that information from the Senate. Also, we see where Yoda and Obi-Wan kept information from Luke about who his father was, and sent him to kill his father without telling him. Oh, and they hid his sister too. Yoda was not innocent. But still, I wonder, did she have orders from the High Council? Or was this the act of one rogue Jedi, as she claimed Master Soul to be? We need Season 2 to tell us. The twins, May and Osha. May and Osha were not formed from the Force, but with the aid of the Force. Now that's an important distinction as we move forward. Only Anakin is made from the Force. Again, Star Wars Messiah, immaculate conception and all. His mother tells us there was no father. But the twins were made of a combination of Coven magics and the Force. They tried for one child and instead mistakenly ended up with two children, who are really the same person in two halves, light and dark sides of the Force. But when push comes to shove, the light and the dark halves switch children. Osha moves towards the dark side, as we saw with the bleeding of the lightsaber's kyber crystal. By the way, how amazingly cool was that? Now, if your answer is anything less than, yeah, it's amazing, we need to have your pulse checked. And then conversely, May, who was acting as an apprentice to the stranger, a Sith, moved over towards the light side of the Force. Season 2 of The Acolyte would show us where their journey goes. Do they stay light and dark, or do they venture back? Does May allow her Force sensitivity to be used by the light side of the Force and the Jedi? Does Plagueis allow Osha to live? He knows she's alive. He knows what Kiram is wanting for her. Does he enforce the rule of two and kill her? Season 2 would answer that question. In conclusion, the sum of it all. There are so many other questions left open. An expectation of a Season 2, and it would be a shame for it not to happen. Yes, there are fans who don't like the show. We get that. Some of them have legitimate reasons and can articulate what it is about the show they don't care for. But there are so many that do enjoy the show and are anxiously awaiting Season 2, and we are actively trying to save it with petitions and reaching out to Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and Disney on social media. So, in nearly the words used in one of my favorite movies of all time, Empire Records, damn the man, save the Acolyte.